Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Today we're going to work on what I've come to call my mother tree. It's a variegated Portulacaria Afra, and you can see it's grown quite a bit. It's got a nice trunk on it. You'll see as we look at it here. It's got nice bark. It's got some texture. It enters the soil nicely, and I call it the mother tree. It kind of reminds me of, I think it's called the home tree in Avatar. Not so much by um, exactly how it looks, but it's just substantial looking. I feel like it's got an impressive trunk and it imparts age, maybe wisdom. It's just a tree that I really like. We'll zoom in here and have a bit better look at it, but you can see it's got multiple trunks. And I also want to show you some of the areas where we've pruned it in the past. You can see, you can barely see it. It hasn't even been that long. You can check out my playlist and see other work I've done in this tree. But yeah, I use the concave cutter and just go in super flat, and it just heals very quickly. Like this one is only maybe 4 months old. That last wound, so it's pretty effective. Tool to use, and we can see we've got, I don't know, 8, 10. I've really let it grow out because I wanted it to beef up a little. And they're kind of slow growing, not super slow, but pretty slow. But yeah, the goal today is to just tighten it up, prune it, cut it back to get more compaction, more ramification. We might do a little bit of selective pruning. I can see I've got some kind of crossing branches here that I might want to address, but we will take a look at that when we get to it. But yeah, I don't have. I think mainly I would describe it as maintenance pruning today. Just it's getting too big on my indoor shelves here. It's kind of crowding out the trees near it, and it's honestly past time for some pruning on this one. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at this tree from the top. I want to show you this picture, and this is how I often water these. So it's kind of two in one. You get to see the top. You can see all these crossing branches and how it's just kind of growing out everywhere. And I find it's helpful to look at the tree from the top, um, before and while you're doing work on it to make sure that you're creating a balance during your pruning. But this also shows like one of my tricks with watering. Sometimes these trees, they just get really shriveled up and the leaves, just regular watering doesn't seem to give them enough. So I periodically, maybe once a month, and again, I typically water my trees every 3 to 4 days, so kind of gauge it to your own environment. But I just fill a wash tub like this with water, and I'll stick the tree in there for an hour, 2 hours, and just let it get its fill of water. And I find that really helps. So that's a tip. In addition to seeing how this grows in the top, that you can use with some of your succulents. So let's get to some pruning. I want to start as I often do. I think in the top this time, although and I'll just I've got some really long shoots here, and I'm just going to cut them back and shorten it up. I pretty much go back to 2 to 3 or 1 to 3 sets of leaves. This one I really want to reduce and tighten it up because I want to get some branching much closer in to the trunk. You can say I've already got some of that, but again, like by cutting it back to 1 or 2 sets of leaves, I get even more branching, which is what I'm going for. So I'm just going to quickly go around, not really a profile prune, but I want to shorten these out so that I get it. Yeah, I mean, I guess to a reasonable profile, and then I'm also getting rid of any branches that are kind of growing back into the tree, because you can never use those. They're going to cross the trunk line and other branches, and it's just get rid of them. And also anything that is kind of growing, straight up or just looks odd. So it's a I find it pretty useful to go around as a first pruning and just kind of quickly get rid of stuff that doesn't look right, and then do multiple passes. I mean, usually I do two or three additional passes where I'm kind of refining that, and eventually you end up with a nicely trimmed tree. So yeah, basically, you can see I've gone around pretty quickly and just kind of cut back stuff that makes no sense on this tree, and just reducing those long shoots, and also coming in here and getting rid of stuff that is just not going to be any use to the tree. So yeah, you can see I shortened that just to 2 there. This one is really long. I don't mind it coming out this way because this tree is sort of to me the primary focus. This is going across, so that's no good. Nice big cutting there. Um, I've got these 3 trunks, and I want kind of everything to come out from there. And one of the things I'm looking at is this main trunk going up the middle. You know, I don't know. Do I want to get rid of that? Do I want to make it more of the central, um, what you see when you look at the tree? Is that like my main line? Because I could, these 3 large trunks could be the primary trunks of the tree, right? I could get rid of that one that's kind of, you can see there in the middle crossing over into the other 2. Uh, and I don't think it would hurt the tree because the other stuff just really kind of branches out. Um, so we'll see. Maybe I'll get closer to that. I don't know if I really want to do that yet because it is kind of the tallest part of the tree and it's the current leader. But I don't know. We'll see where we end up. So I've got the really long and the obvious stuff out, and now I'm going through like a second pass where I'm really kind of refining it a bit. So some of these shorter ones, I'm really cutting it back. I'm sort of making the decision, okay, am I going to go back to 2 sets of leaves on this or 1 set? And also, small stuff like that that's growing to the inside. I don't need that. This is just going to clutter things up. I may as well get rid of that. Again, on the inside here, it's just growth that is not adding anything and confusing the look of the tree, so get rid of that. Um, And you can see I've got, I'm probably going to end up really taking this back and simplifying it like I like to do in these when I do, kind of, I don't know, I guess what I'd call sort of heavy maintenance pruning. Um, and this is just too tall, I think, especially compared to the rest of the tree. I sort of want this as a branch. So I dramatically want to shorten that out and have it grow more out rather than up. I think, at least currently, the current apex in the tree. I'm going to grow that out. And I think it'll work out because I think I can get branches to come down and that'll really fill out the top of the tree. And you'll just have this wide triple trunk tree. And I may eventually take this off. It'd be a much shorter tree. But I don't want to do that now. I think it would really ruin the look of it. And I'm not absolutely convinced that's what I want to do. Although maybe this would be a good simplification because it really, you can see it's parallel to that one on the right. I'm just going to take that off. And yeah, I think that helps. And like I said, as this top develops, it'll sort of fill in that space. And I think this could work. And so that's my plan for now. I'll grow this as the new apex here. Just cleaning up this area where I cut it off because it'll heal off nice and smooth. And yeah, if it doesn't work, I always have, uh, I can always cut back more, but I think that helped clarify it. But you can sort of see these 2 trunks from this angle. They sort of weave in and then apart from each other again. And so we'll see. I don't know. I think I can develop enough foliage that, that is sort of the top third of the tree and you don't really see it. But if that's not the case, then, we can, as I said before, we can always do pruning in the future. But I think by filling this out over time, I really think this will be quite a charming tree with these nice fat triple trunks. It's kind of an opportune time to bring up a subject. There's like, there's the official rules of bonsai. Like you can Google it. There's all kinds of um, I think John Naka probably had the first book of really codifying this, but there's a lot of them, right? And you know, I kind of see those as guidelines. Like ultimately, you want a pleasing shape and something that reminds you of a tree, but you don't have to obey all those rules, right? And the other part is, I'm just getting rid of some of this stuff growing deep. I think I'm going to take that nub off because it really is too low and not adding anything. But getting back to my point, you know, I kind of see them more as guidelines, right? And so, as you evolve the tree, it may very well be the case that you're like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm now seeing that this rule applies here, so let's do that. But you also want to have something that's pleasing to look at for some amount of time, and it's your tree, right? And you're enjoying it. And I'd much rather have something I enjoy looking at and I'm proud of rather than something that meets all the rules, but is it like an abomination or just has no interest at all. So just my personal feeling, it's your tree, design it for yourself, keep the rules in mind and, they can be there to guide you. But, ultimately this is like a creation of yours and you should make yourself happy. I mean, I guess in the end, I'd sort of say it's sort of like, artists like, you learn how to use the tools and the structure and what the elements are. But, some of the best art is something unexpected, right? It's something new, right? It sort of makes you think a little bit, or you don't see all that technique and those elements. You basically see what the overall impression is. And I'm not saying any of my trees get there, but I am saying I think that's a valid way to look at working on bonsai. I'm going to take this off. It's just straight up and kind of unattractive. And this kind of goes to the inside. We'll take that off. And yeah, so this is, I guess I'd call this my third phase of refinement where I'm kind of really seeing the sparsity and creating that outline of the tree, which will allow it to grow in more fully, and then I'll have branches right where I want them, and it'll be a nice thick canopy. Yeah, I hear these these cuttings kind of flying off. It's funny, they give good scissors, man. Sometimes they really snap it like and they fly. I do have like a tray under my turntable here, and most of the stuff falls in there, but occasionally it goes a bit wide and bounces down onto the floor. And my dog has developed a taste for Portulacaria. I don't know if you've ever tried these. To me, they kind of have sort of like I don't know. I describe it as kind of a bad pickle sort of flavor, which sounds like it'd be unattractive, but you sort of get used to it. Maybe a green apple, like a sort of a bitter green apple or an apple that comes on super early, in the summer, like you're eating them before they're ready. I would describe the taste like that. But yeah, I mean, as long as you don't use any systemic insecticides on your trees, go ahead and eat it. I mean, it's quite a nice little flavor and worth trying out. Yeah, so I'm just kind of looking at it from this is my front, despite some of the confusion of the trunks there, which I've already mentioned. I'm just going to let it ride this time and we'll deal with that in the future. And I sort of cut that back one off there because I have sort of a branch in the front, and I'm going to see which one wins, and I will simplify those based on which one is more attractive. I've got this branch here. Uh, yeah, it's sort of creating a loop. Um, Let me just think about it if I want to take it off. I think I'll leave it for now. I can always cut it off later. I think I just want to, just cut things back. I really want to make sure I have everything back to sort of the minimum set of leaves because I'm going to let it grow and it should be interesting pruning this next time. I think it'll be nice because we should get some more branching. And yeah, I think it's going to work out really well. I should have mentioned at the beginning, this is a part, I did a whole series of trees, prunings. They were all variegated like this, a series of videos. I think there were 6 of them. And this, that's better. There, yeah, you wanted to cut off that bit that was kind of sticking in the back. And so this was actually one of those trees as well, although I didn't include it in that video because this was one of the ones that I'd had this one indoors. Well, I mean, I had them all indoors last year, but I'd kept this one warm. And, if you go back and look at those videos, I think you can see it, that really paid off because the growth was easily multiple times the other trees. So let's take a short break in the action. I'll clean up here and then we'll have another look at this. But but yeah, I had a series of these trees, and I'll eventually do a one of the videos where I kind of show the progression because it's pretty dramatic. When I got these things, they were completely bare root. They were massive, like this. You can sort of see, where I've kind of cut, where it's sort of still developing taper. Um, this was probably 4 times this height. It was big, and so I cut those off and made a bunch of cuttings. It's kind of a miracle. I didn't really know what I was doing, but it seems to have worked out. And yeah, I think the tree is well on its way, and I'll do that progression video at some point because it's really interesting. I mean, sometimes when I look back at those um, pictures, I cannot believe where it came from. So I'm just looking at this. I think this is a little thick on this side, and I'm going to cut that back a little just to kind of balance the look of the tree. So I like to give it a spin and cut off some of this downward facing growth. I'm really pleased with kind of where we've gotten so far. So usually I cut off the downward facing growth. This is a bit long. Yeah, I think that's a lot more rounded and it'll sort of branch out closer in. And yeah, I think it's looking good. We've come a long way from where we first started, and you can see the main trunk. I think that'll fill in. I may cut this back a little further because I really don't want it that tall. And this is a little kind of bushy. You see we've got this long section, but I'm gonna let it go for now. And I'll get rid of this inside growth there. And we'll see if I keep both those branches. Let's see, I'm cleaning this up a little bit. I had taken this branch off here, and I like to get it really flat. I found these heal really well if you get it super flat. I like this. This trunk has a lot of interesting character to it. It's got a lot of movement and taper. Kind of looking at some of these sections that have grown out over time. I'll come back to that. We'll take a look at it. This one could use a bit more simplification here. It's looking a little, I don't know, bushy. But overall, I think it's quite an improvement. And I always kind of like to take a break and a step back, take a look at it. I think this is the front, at least for now. And you can see that one branch in the back, but I'm gonna just let it go for now, and we'll see what we get in additional growth in the future and go from there. But it's important to look at it from all sides. And like I said, I'm not sure about this long straight section. It's not bad, but I don't think I need it, and I've got some great stuff like right behind it, which I think would be, much more attractive in this case. So I'm thinking about taking that off, and I think I will, just to clean it up a bit. Um, and maybe I want something coming down lower. I'll leave a little stump there, but I think I'll likely just take it all the way off. And I think that kind of cleans up the profile a bit as well. And with that, I think we're getting pretty close to done here. I'm going to take a little bit more off the top here, some of this downward growth, because it'll just grow straight down anyway. I kind of want it to come out and do some branching. And Mabel wants me to pick her up. Um, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So like I said, I'll take a final look here and do a little fine tuning. But I think this is ready to put back in the bench and grow out. I think it'll fill in, and I can't wait to see, where we go from here. I think this has been a really good cleanup job. We've taken quite a bit off here. So let's take a look at the carnage cam. I mean, you can see I literally took off. I mean, I don't know, over 90%, I would say, the foliage, almost all of it. So, the tree will probably take a little, vacation for a couple of weeks. And then I think it'll be back and growing like gangbusters again. But let's take our victory lap. And I think the thought for today is, if you have a problem, cut it away. In the infamous words of John Naka, it's always good advice. I'm sure I've said it multiple times, but it always bears repeating. And it's the primary rule of any kind of pruning. And there's the front. I think it looks really nice. I know I mentioned before I did a little kind of mini rant on, how those two um, trunks don't necessarily work with each other, but I think it works for now, and I think it looks good. Let me know in the comments if you either agree with that or disagree, or other things you think I should have cut off. But I think we're in great shape now. Got some good character on these trunks, and I will let it grow for probably a few more months, and we will come and have another look at it again. And with that, I want to thank you for spending time with me, and I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.